Good evening and welcome to my capstone presentation. Before I begin with the first slide, I would like to state that this case study is entirely untrue and it is structured in a way to look for a solution to a problem. I was actually inspired by the recent surge of domestic violence during the whole coronavirus outbreak. With reference to the case study, a wife has been experiencing threats by her husband, and evidently she is scared. And her first instinct was to call the domestic hotline unit for help. Due to the state of the emergency, she was encouraged by the hotline advocate to call 911. Two policemen arrived at the premises, and when they interacted with the victim and the husband, they didn't find any evidence at all to suggest that there is any, abuse going on. So the policeman did was to leave the husband with a warning and left. So later on that same day, the husband attacked the wife with a knife, and their son got stabbed while protecting the mother. The only drawback from the case study is that we have very limited information to go on. We don't know how long the abuse has been going on and what are the triggers. But given the essence of time for this video presentation, I had to throw in a case that's not too extensive. So again, we have a domestic violence case involving an adult female who is a mother to a young child. From the case study, we learned that initially she was receiving threats by her husband, but then the husband's violent behavior later escalated with force and use of a deadly weapon. So the wife is presented as a victim who is experiencing psychological distress, and I am playing the role of a social worker slash domestic violence hotline advocate, and the chosen client system is micro. I will also be offering the wife emotional support and developing a contract for safety planning. The desired outcome, however, is to help the wife, is to help keep the wife safe and promote change for a violence-free household. So this part requires a decision on the best way to help the client and to effect change. This can involve collaborating on an interdisciplinary team or with other organizations to share different perspectives on a case. Well, my assessment plan is to provide you with a professional understanding of the system. The case study provided is limited, so we have to explore by making a general assessment. First thing to ask is, does the mother feel safe? Is the child safe? Does the wife already have an escape plan in place? What is her race and cultural background for all the members of the household? Conduct a needs assessment in the area to determine what the barriers are, and think of alternative solutions to help the victim and her family as well. What are the social determinant factors, and know the ICD-10 codes when you're applying, when you're billing Medicaid for if you're in a practice setting. Other things to ask myself is she working a full-time job or a homemaker? What are the problems related to the environment? And I would have to conduct a biopsychosocial to obtain a general history or personal history of the client, and just get a general sense of the husband and what the child might be going through as well. and research domestic violence evaluation, screening, and assessment tools for better understanding. So, the next step is to implement a plan. Many victims of crime experiences trauma. They have feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, fears and anxiety, and even symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder. So, the use of motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapies are my two favorite techniques that would help to correct the mindset of behaviors in individuals. But these techniques are usually offered as solution focused brief therapy interventions in some social service settings. Now, the use of evidence based intervention has become popular over the years. This method has proved beneficial in social work practices. This evidence based theory is known as Community Advocacy Project, and it's an evidence based program designed to help survivors of intimate partner or domestic violence abuse in so as to regain control of their lives. The project, which is strength based and survivor centered, can be incorporated into many domestic violence programs, and it is considered an easy and inexpensive program. It has been shown to decrease survivors' risk of reabuse and to increase their quality of life. Level of social support will be increased, and ability, and they would also have the ability to obtain community resources for when they need it. The intervention occurs in survivors' home and communities, and it's short term. It's about 10 weeks, but very intensive. It's about 4 to 6 hours a week. And the trained advocates help survivors work on their self identified goals, and the program has been successful with those leaving the relationship as well as staying in the relationship. Lastly, I would like to discuss safety planning with the victim to ensure safety every time the abuse occurs. So, each person's situation is different. So, this plan would be best developed by the victim, him or herself, and the advocate will, be there just to guide him or her along to ensure that the goals are smart. Once the goals are implemented, the ultimate goal for me is to achieve success working with the client. So, in terms of the victim, the overall long term goal is to stop the violence in the home and to improve mental and physical health for her and her son, as well as the perpetrator as well. He's not supposed to be left out. So the short term goals will be the wife will be provided counseling by the advocate or the social worker every time she calls the domestic hotline unit. The advocate will also assist with transition. Advocate will assist with victim son. You know, chances are, you know, the her son might be exposed to violence, and evidence have shown that children who, as in the growing up years, if they experience any violence or trauma or predisposed to any sort of violent conditions, they're more likely to become abusers themselves. So, advocate will assist with the victim's son. Referrals will be made for child psychology, and suggestions for activities with the child will be encouraged during social distancing or lockdown periods. Cognitive, behavioral, and motivational interviewing techniques will be used in psychotherapy treatment. Advocate will help with legal needs such as attending court order proceedings as a support network when filing for an order of protection. Sometimes the client may not understand the form. We're not allowed to complete it for them, but we are just there to show additional support and, explain what what the victim is supposed to be completing on the form, as well as other legal services for a lawyer, you know, in case they need, if she needs to, handle a divorce or immigration or whatever it is. The advocate will also assist with basic needs, foods, shelter, and clothes. Advocate will volunteer in domestic violence shelter for men and women. Again, it's, sometimes people, we're just, because it's a gender based issue where mostly females are being taken advantage of, we tend to forget the perpetrators or the abusers themselves. They also need understanding, and we have to work with them to correct their behavior. So we try not to leave them out. I personally am open to working with individuals like that. Advocates will volunteer in domestic violence shelter for men and women. Advocate will also use CBT techniques and clients who are perpetrators to alter negative behavioral choices, as I stated before. And lastly, the advocate will design projects for community to spread awareness to effect change. The first lesson that I would like to share is that this capstone increases my understanding of the social and problematic conditions when I'm working in a helping profession. I believe that my critical thinking skills are well improved to come up with quick thinking solutions if I'm faced with an ethic dilemma or a crisis situation. The second lesson learned is knowing how to interact with people better and following up on unfinished cases to achieve the expected outcome. This year has been very hard. Loads of woosahs and self care. But I must admit that I did have fun learning. Thank you so much for watching. Be kind and spread the awareness on domestic violence. Bye bye.